Hello there, everyone. I wanted to get this video out before the 30th since we have another alpha test coming up for SMITE 2. This will mainly have just some background footage, some from games that I didn't upload that we lost, other footage that we've been recording recently, just testing a bunch of stuff. But the main reason we're making this video is just to talk about beads, as well as CC and Blink especially is the main thing. Mainly because I've been seeing a lot of butting heads in regard to these topics, and, you know, being a small YouTuber, I wanted to throw my 2 cents now I'm stammering, in the topic as well, just because, hey, fuck it, why not? But to be serious, I wanted to jump in on the discussion mainly because it has brought up a lot of these topics that they have been going on for a very long time. We'll just go ahead and preface the video by saying that I would love for anyone watching to converse and discuss with each other, not only about things that I bring up, but what others do as well. These are discussions that should be happening as we are going into SMITE 2, because this is the earliest the devs can hear that feedback and make decisions on how the game can grow. The Blink section here is going to be a bit longer, while the section for beads and CC are much shorter. Hopefully you enjoy. Now let's start with the big one, being Blink. In SMITE 2, we essentially have what was known as Combat Blink back in the day. Combat Blink would let you blink while taking damage, and as long as you weren't being CC'd or crowd controlled, for those that don't know that term. Essentially, stuns, things like that. Granted, it may have been an unintentional effect of what the item did in the first alpha, but in SMITE 2's first alpha, it was letting us use Blink while taking damage, during animations, and when we were channeling abilities that had a duration. The best example I can give of this is Shock and Fenrir ultimates. You could start your ultimate and use the Blink item during the animation. There's currently a lot of pushback as well from a lot of players that are in favor of the current state of the item. I personally am one that is in favor of the current state of the item, and will definitely discuss why. But first we have to cover a couple other topics. When looking at Dota 2, specifically Blink Dagger, it is a core item on a vast number of heroes in the game, being used mainly as an initiation tool. Blink in SMITE functions very much the same, just on a much longer cooldown. In both games, Blink cannot be used if you have taken damage from an enemy. However, in Dota 2, you can still use your Blink if you have dealt damage to an enemy. The Blink Dagger item is on a 15-second cooldown, and has no stats associated with it unless it is upgraded later in the game. Now, I'm not as familiar with League of Legends, but to my memory, the only Blink-like effect is the flash ability that, in most cases, is used to secure a kill or escape from a fight. It also likely is used as an initiation for fights, but the downside of Flash is that the blink range is nowhere near as far as, say, Dota 2's Blink Dagger. I believe it's about a third of the distance, if I recall correctly, but I could be wrong. Flash also has a cooldown of about 300 seconds, if I recall correctly, and after doing some research, I did find that in League of Legends, you can also use Flash in a way that is similar to how we are able to use Blink in SMITE 2's Alpha. This video here pretty much shows that you're able to literally use Flash during channeled animations. Flash also works the exact same way, where as long as you aren't being CC'd, you can use it. The point of all this is to show you the comparisons while acknowledging how blink could currently work in Smite 2. Being able to blink during animations is a massive game changer and adds so much more to the game in my opinion. Using Shock as the example, if you pull off a well-timed blink during your ult channel, it could be quite devastating for teamfights, while also being extremely rewarding for the player, as if you could time it perfectly, where the moment the axe is about to slam down to the ground, knocking up and silencing enemies practically right after you blink. Now, I have seen some complaints of not being able to react quickly enough, but let's be real. If you see a Shock channeling his ultimate from blink distance, and you don't either run away, use your escapes, or immediately pre-beads, or Aegis if it's in the game, there's not really... to be honest, that's on you at that point, especially if you have vision. Let's also come from a different perspective where we don't have vision. What if the Shock comes from the jungle, or is not in view at all when the ability goes off? Pretty easy there. You should be warding. Something like a blink gank only needs to happen once for you to realize that you need more vision, and you need to expect that type of play going forward in the game. Let's also state that you can hear many abilities, so if having no vision at all doesn't muffle the sounds, voice lines, or the audio cues completely, then the damage can likely be avoided if you hear the sound effect in time. That just comes down to your reaction time as a player. Now, let's pull from Ymir Ult as a reference, since it displaces and moves a target. Personally, I think it is perfectly fine for this interaction to happen. Now, there are instances where I would say it shouldn't. Using Tyr as an example, Tyr's Fearless is essentially a channel. Actually, let's look at it like this. If Tyr starts a Fearless channel and hits me with the first hit, then blinks, should I blink with him? I do not think so. I would consider Fenrir's Ult and Tyr's Fearless two very different forms of CC. One is a physical grab and movement, displacement, if you would like to use that term, while the other is a juggling knockup. Another ability that I would consider that would work similar to Fenrir's Ult in Smite 2 would be Atlas's gravity pull, the small cone in front of him where he either knocks you up if you're farther away or he grabs you. If he grabs you, it's a physical grab that he displaces you with. So, yes, his should act very similar to Fenrir's, and should be able to be used during a blink animation to carry you with him. I do bring these up because if this is a standard for blink going forward in Smite 2, then we have to make sure that everything works properly and makes sense the way that we think they should. I'll use a bit of common sense and some of the game dev courses that I've been going through to come up with a few quick examples. And let's use Dagi and Thor for these. When Dagi ults, I would say that she would not be able to blink because she spawns a stationary deployable. In Thor's case, I would say that during his channel, before he goes into the sky, he could blink if he wanted to. But the moment that he starts the animation to go upward, to go airborne, he would be locked out of it, or locked out of being able to blink, because now his targeter changes. It actually changes to a physical targeter on the map. So you should not be able to blink at this point. We could possibly assume from this precedent that any ult or skill that would banish you or make you untargetable, you would not be able to blink during that. Let's use Wukong or Freya's ultimate for that example. Obviously, Wukong, maybe you could blink during the channel of him spinning his weapon around, but the moment you are airborne, no. Same thing with Freya. The moment you are, well, actually, I would say with Freya, no, you can't blink at all during it. It's just, you're banished. I'd also like to mention, before moving on, that we have a couple of gods in particular that most people don't realize they have similar interactions to some of the things we could do in Smite 2. Hercules and his Earthbreaker ability, for example. In Smite, players that have the reflexes have been able to use Earthbreaker, flick their camera 180 degrees, and blink to pull a target with the ability all the way to them the entire distance. The reason this was accomplishable was because Earthbreaker has that travel distance, so if you catch them at it could be the farthest distance or about like right center of where you would be knocked up, the moment you turn and blink, as long as they have not been hit to stop you from blinking, you can blink, and then it will pull the target all the way to you. Most casual players would likely consider this a bug or a glitch, while others would consider it a very highly skilled mechanic that can be pulled off if practiced enough. Let's also consider that Horus Ult is a thing, and my buddy Kev helped me film a bunch of footage that's going to be playing. It may have started already, but it's going to be playing through here to show you some of the crazy bullshit we were able to do with Horus Ult and multiple gods. Some of it extremely reminiscent of how Blinking Amulet functions or would function. I'm going to let it play for the rest of the video as I talk, so enjoy some of that insanity. Quick little blurb before we move on to beads. Just a quick news flash. This was something that was said on the 21st in the Smite 2 Discord, or Smite Discord. They did say, and it was announced with a flash test that was playable the day that I was recording that. This audit, well, it's the 26th now. It was the 21st when this was announced. This is the first time I'm able to record because my voice has been messed up because I've been sick. But point being, Blinking Amulet, the item. This is the description they put up for the flash test. Our goal for this item is to empower the gods who need it most and deliver hype moments while also allowing for counterplay. With that in mind, we've adjusted Blinking Amulet to not be allowed to be activated within 3 seconds of dealing or taking damage, but it can still be used while firing or channeling an ability. The cooldown has been made much shorter and the stats are slightly improved. We feel like this combination best fits the gods and playstyles that rely on Blink. More movement active items with potential in-combat use are being explored as well. After getting lucky and testing in that slash test that happened on the 22nd, it seems that they've either reverted back to the normal Blink relic for the item, or it was just not currently working as they had intended. It was disappointing for me during that test because it took away everything that was making the item different from the past iterations and different from other MOBAs. It worked for a couple of the new gods that were in the flash test, but let's put it this way, because I don't know if I can say who they were. It did not let the ability travel with them after blinking. So it essentially would stop your channel of the ability. And that completely makes the point of blinking during a channel or animation pointless. That's the main reason why I think it may have just not been coded correctly, because on the original gods that were in the first alpha test, it did not work on any of them as it did before. So, using shock as the example, I could ult with shock, but it would not let me blink during the animation like it did. But from the way they worded it, it should have worked. So, something was not coded correctly, likely with their blueprints, and that happens. Hopefully it's fixed for the alpha that's coming up. When it comes to beads in SMITE 2, we have it as a default and on every god. I think most players are hoping that we get a few options going into the next alpha, and while there are also players asking for blink to be the default. But let's just stick to the beads side of the discussion for now. I am personally of the mindset that there should be one of three outcomes regarding beads. Beads should have its cooldown increased back to its original timer, which I believe in super early SMITE, it was 5 minutes, I believe. And let's go ahead and pull the idea that it can be upgraded down to a 3-minute timer. That's the first option, to me at least. The second option should be that beads should be put on an item, like how blink is tied to an item now. And then the third option, they should just take beads out completely. To go over my reasoning, my reason for saying a 5-minute timer is simply, at least to me, because if they're going to have beads as a default on every player with no other options, then I think that an increased timer is necessary, or nothing will really change in the game between SMITE 1 and SMITE 2 with this item. Maybe it's just because I'm used to more like long games. It's definitely my opinion, but I feel that even in current SMITE with a, I think 140-second cooldown, it's just up so often that it feels like nothing can be done half the time because fights aren't happening as often as they could be. If we were to put beads on an item, then it adds to the build diversity in its own ways, and obviously stats could be added to the item to make it a worthwhile buy. My logic for this comes from an item in Dota 2 called Lincoln Sphere. Now, our version of Lincoln's, like our actual version of Lincoln's, is Magi's Blessing. Lincoln Sphere in Dota 2 absorbs the next single target spell that is sent at you specifically, or it can also absorb specific ults, if I recall correctly. Not only that, I believe Lincoln's can also be applied to another target, like to an ally, but that's besides the point. In Dota 2, Lincoln's gives some decent stats, like it gives strength, intelligence, agility, not very much, but it does give a little bit. It gives mana and health regen. So an item like that could be thought up as an equivalent that essentially gives us the beads as an active item. I feel like leaning into that would be a better option, because then, you could also say that people aren't always building just damage. It gives them that, for players that want to play safer, yes, there is the option for you. It gives you decent stats, it gives you some regen, there you go. For players that want to play more aggressively and feel like they may not need it, they can go more damage, or they can go a defense item for all I care, It's offering solutions. To finish this section out though, if beads were removed completely, I really wouldn't complain either. And that just simply comes down to preference. It would give us a reason to actually pick up Magi's more often, while also getting rid of players' reliance on the CC immunity. I believe that Smite's players have gotten so used to having beads that it has stifled a lot of players' abilities to grow, honestly. It has given them a get out of jail free card, so to speak. And Smite 2 just has so many better audio, or so much better audio and animation tweaks that they've shown off, not only in videos but from the alpha. And almost every ability has some sort of animation wind up or a distinct audio cue before going off, especially abilities with CC. One that comes to mind, Fenrir. Let's use him as the example. When Fenrir ones, the noises, it sounds very much like, what's the best way to put it? Kind of like a growling sound. I can't put it to words. When he uses his 2, there's always a howl. His 3, it's kind of that gnashing. He does the 4 gnashes. It's obvious what the sound is for each jump. And then for the ult, there's always the loud growling howl that he does. Every skin does it. You can go into Smite Jungle Practice right now and try it on every single skin. Every single skin, the sound effect for the 2 and for the 4, the howl, seething howl, and then Ragnarok, or whatever his ultimate's called. Those 2 abilities, the sound effect is I'm fairly certain is the same across every skin. Let's talk about CC now. I see so many complaints about CC nowadays. So many players say there is way too much CC in Smite that it makes the game unfun. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of be the asshole here. If you have never played any other MOBA, CC is just something that is everywhere. It may not be on every character, but it is a constant across the board. I could literally pull up the list of heroes in Dota 2 and list off all of their CC options. Whether they have slows, stuns, pushes, or whatever form of CC. I could list off every single one for you. There's that many. And that doesn't include all of the items that have varying forms of CC in Dota. Let's not get started on Cyclone Stick, Scythe of Vice, fucking Meteor Hammer. There's so many forms of CCs. I don't know what to tell you when it comes to CC and Smite, honestly, because it's a necessary factor in MOBAs for practically every aspect of the game. If you have issues with the amount of CC in Smite, honestly, the only thing that I can really say is that you just need to get good. You need to start listening for audio cues. You need to be paying attention to the animations. Like I mentioned, every character, almost every ability, just about every ability, has an animation or a sound cue specifically for that animation that is what is going to happen. The main thing I guess I could say is just be glad you're not playing Dota 2 or League of Legends, because CC in those games it's going to kill you. It is going to kill you much faster than in Smite as well. Not only that, your ults can be interrupted in those games for the most part. So be glad that they keep CC immunity during most ultimates in Smite. Hell, in Dota, you have to buy an item that makes you practically immune to negative status effects. So you can't be stunned by abilities. It's called Black King Bar. It lasts for 9 seconds. The downside of it is that every time you use it, it reduces the duration by 1 second, and it reduces it down to 6. So after 3 uses, you go from 9 seconds of practically what is CC immunity down to 6. On top of that, it's on a 95-second cooldown. So again, that just goes back into the whole like Dota 2 items are fucking insane. So just be glad some of the crazy shit that's in other MOBAs aren't in Smite, because we're not getting into a Dota 2 heroes thing where I'm not going to talk about Kunkka or Phantom Assassin or Templar Assassin. Is it Phantom Assassin? I don't know. The bitch with coup de grace. Like, we're just not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about Enigma. You saw a clip earlier. That's all I can say. So that's the end of the video. Please leave feedback or discussion points in the comments. I'll try to reply to everyone if I can. Especially feel free to leave some comments after the alpha phase on the 30th. The main takeaway that I want people to pull from this video, it should be to be having these discussions to add fuel to the fire for the next iterations of Smite 2's alpha. All the feedback currently for the devs is good feedback, even the negative stuff, because if it's super negative stuff that they have noticed, they can fix it. I'll likely do a video in the future discussing some items, ideas for items that I have. Some items I would love to see possibly ported over, like just steal that item. We're going to take that over here to our game now, that kind of stuff. We're going to pull a, I can't even remember the name of the company. Whoever had Han before Heroes of New Earth, whoever had Heroes of New Earth before, where they just kept stealing shit from Dota. Oh man, yeah. I would honestly love to see some items that are in Dota 2 and League of Legends in Smite 2 as well. So maybe we'll have a video idea come out for that. Other than that, I may also do another video with Kev at some point where we go through every god and show off shit that can be done with Horus and interactions, because after the testing I had him help me with the other day, damn, some of that shit's so fun. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I will see you guys all in the next one, hopefully. Laters.